All right, good afternoon. Welcome back to all of us. We will be doing the briefings in person unless otherwise indicated. On Sudan, I can just tell you that we're obviously monitoring the situation on the ground today rather closely. You will have seen that in a statement we issued yesterday that the Secretary General condemned the continued violence targeting protesters and called upon security forces to exercise the utmost restraint and adhere to their obligations in relation to the rights and freedom of assembly and expression. The Secretary General has also taken note of the resignation of Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok and regrets that a political understanding on the way forward is not in place despite the gravity of the situation in Sudan. The Secretary General encourages all stakeholders to continue engaging in meaningful dialogue in order to reach an inclusive, peaceful, and lasting solution. Sudanese aspirations for a transition that leads to democratic dispensation are critical. We, of course, remain ready to support these efforts, both here and obviously through our Special Representative Volker Perthes on the ground. Turning to Afghanistan, our humanitarian colleagues are telling us that the harsh winter is aggravating the severe conditions that many Afghans are facing and are already facing. Heavy snowfall and rain have impacted a number of areas in the past 24 hours, with snow disrupting flights to and from Kabul International Airport. Further snow and low temperatures are forecast in the coming days. Meanwhile, the humanitarian partners have been racing against time to deliver aid and supplies in line with the commitment to scale up operations. During December, our humanitarian partners reached 7 million people with relief food supplies across the country. Provisions of winterization support, including cash and non-food items, is also underway in various parts of the country. Donors have provided $1.5 billion for the 2 humanitarian appeals in 2021. This includes $776 million for the $606 million required for the flash appeal launched in September by the Secretary General, and $730 million for the $869 million sought for the humanitarian response plan. We have 3 new resident coordinators to announce today following the approval of the respective host governments, and those are Alvaro Rodriguez of Canada as the new resident coordinator in Turkey, Amanda Kozi Mukwashi of Zambia as the new resident coordinator in Lesotho, and Edward Colon of Sierra Leone will be the new resident coordinator shortly in Zimbabwe. And we congratulate all 3. As you know, resident coordinators are the Secretary General's representative for development at the country level and lead our work to accelerate progress towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. They also mobilize support to address the multiple impacts of COVID-19 in line with the call for the Secretary General to make recovery resolution for 2022. Make recovery our resolution for 2022. Full biography is on the internet. Just a quick flashback to last 3 days. Yesterday, we issued a statement in which the Secretary General welcomed the joint statement by the nuclear weapon states on the prevention of nuclear war and avoidance of arms races. He's encouraged by the nuclear weapons states' commitment to pursue measures to prevent nuclear war, consistent with his long-standing call for dialogue and cooperation to this end. He looks forward to further details about further initiatives. The Secretary General takes the opportunity to restate what he has said repeatedly. The only way to eliminate all nuclear risks is to eliminate all nuclear weapons. He reiterates his willingness to work with the nuclear weapon states and all member states to achieve this goal as soon as possible. And also over the weekend, we issued a statement on Kosovo regarding the declaration by the authorities there of a persona non grata of a staff member of the UN mission at UNMIK. Today is World Braille Day, which aims to raise the awareness of the importance of Braille as a means of communications in the full realization of the human rights for blind and partially sighted people. COVID-19 has revealed how critically important it is to produce essential information in accessible formats, including Braille and audio formats. The pandemic has also emphasized the need to intensify all activities related to digital accessibility to to ensure digital inclusion for all. At 1 p.m. this afternoon, you will be joined by Ambassador Mona Juul, who, as you know, is the president of the Security Council for the month of January. And she's, of course, permanent representative of Norway. She will be here to brief you on the program of work for the month. And the following member states have paid their 2021 regular budget dues in full as of December 31st. We are most grateful to Cabo Verde, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Iraq, Israel, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen. And we are bending the rules a little bit for our friends in Dominica, who paid their their full dues for 2021, but this was only credited in today in 2022, but we have no doubt they sent the check before the end of the year. So we'll say that 153 nations paid their dues in full. We say obrigado, gracias, shukran, and toda to all of them that paid just before the end of the year. And we look forward to more money starting to roll in soon. As a point of reference, as of December 30th, 2020, 144 countries had paid their budget dues in full compared to 153. Now, James Bays, welcome back. Let it all out.
Okay, start with Sudan then. Who is the special representative currently meeting? What meetings has he been having in Sudan? And given the departure of Mr. Hamdok, who are you actually dealing with on the civilian side?
I was just in touch with our colleagues on the ground. There are meetings going on, contacts going on, but we're not in a position today to give you any more details. But I know our colleagues have been extremely active over the last 72 hours.
Okay, almost exactly the same question regarding Stephanie Williams and the situation in Libya. What is she up to? What is the UN's aim now with regard to the election? Do you have a preferred date?
Well, the preferred date would be that one chosen by the authorities. We would like it, obviously, I think, as soon as practicable. She continues to engage with all key relevant actors.
And a final one for now. COVID-19. Can you just explain to us currently what the rules are with regard to this building with the spread of Omicron? Because they seem to no longer be following the CDC's guidelines. The CDC's guidelines are you're sick, you isolate for 5 days, you don't need to test, you can just come back to work. Is that the rule that the UN is currently imposed? The rule that's in force here, because it certainly wasn't the previous rule.
Right. Given that sort of the surge really started just as the holidays were starting, the instructions were given that staff members could work from home until the end of, what days are we today?
We're on the 4th.
The 4th. The rule instruction was given that staff members could work from home until the 9th of January. There are meetings and decisions taking place. There are meetings taking place right now to kind of figure out where we go from there.
But it would be useful guidance because some of us are coming to the building.
Yeah, no,
what the current rule is, if one was to be infected, are you supposed to stay away for 5 days or 10 days now?
Yeah, I'll keep you posted on that, Madame.
About Libya, will the mercenaries able to leave Libya before the elections?
Well, we have always called and asked for mercenaries, third, non-Libyan forces to leave as quickly as possible. We don't see any impediment to them leaving, and of course, we feel that they should be leaving. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Stéphane. Happy New Year. I have a question for the Secretary General. Now with the developments in Sudan, Libya, Mali, Guinea, etc., there is an overflow or a trend of coups across the African continent. Yet the way of tackling it, at least from the UN, from what we have seen over the past couple of years, it has been standard, more passive in the language that urging parties. I have not seen any military power that reached, any military force, I'm sorry, that reached power was able to give this power voluntarily. How does the Secretary General see this trend of military coups or coups in Africa?
Well, I mean, I think the Secretary General addressed it himself not that long ago, what he referred to as an epidemic of military takeover, of coups, or however you want, whatever label you want to use, and is something that is of great concern to him.
Is the Secretary General perhaps contemplating hosting international events with heads of states from different regions and powers in Africa, whether indigenous or local African powers or international powers, to come and sit down and try to see, since any military group that reach, they are later, within 30 days, you find that there is a flow of arms, there is a flow of aid.
I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, you know, we never say never. I'm not sure that that kind of a meeting would be of any use at this point. What we're dealing with is realities on the ground. We've spoken out against undemocratic takeover of governments. And once they've happened, as we've seen a number of countries, we work either directly or with regional authorities to try to guide those countries back to a transition to democracy. And we're doing that in a number of places. Evelyn. And to you, my dear.
Can you hear me? Yes.
I can hear you and see you.
Okay. Get this thing off my face. Yeah, on Sudan, just to follow up on what James was talking about, are there any ideas from the Secretary General? What is the next step except urging restraint? And
on which topic?
On the chaos in Sudan.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not just words. It's trying to see how we can be of help in a dialogue that will between critical actors, so that trust can be rebuilt, and we can put a country back on a transition to democracy that meets the aspirations of the Sudanese people.
Also, one more question. Thank you on that one. On the nuclear risk, the 5 countries, there's no sign yet that they will reduce their arsenals, but there are 4 more with weapons: North Korea, India, Pakistan, and Israel. Are there any new plans to approach them?
Look, our message, I mean, the Secretary General's message is clear, is that he would like to see all nuclear weapons eliminated. And that, as he said in the statement, it's a dialogue with those countries that have nuclear weapons, that those countries that have openly nuclear weapons, as stated in the statement that was issued, and all other member states. Okay, sorry, Gregory, go ahead, and then let's go. Well, because you already had a question. I usually go through first round. Okay, go ahead. I was going to say something witty, which was going to fall flat on my face. So go, vas-y, please. No, please. Okay.
The Secretary General is starting his second mandate. Does he think that he did a good job, the first one? Did he miss things? Does he think that he did enough? What?
Look, I think the Secretary General will let others evaluate his work, and frankly, that's part of your role, which I know you fulfill. And I think the Secretary General was faced with 5 extremely challenging years, and I have no doubt he is disappointed in the way the global situation has turned out in a number of cases. But he's also, I think, encouraged by the way the countries, and I think especially people in the streets have mobilized to try to keep their governments accountable and to try to keep governments moving on issues such as climate change, such as democracy, as COVID. And I do very much hope we will have the Secretary General be able to speak to you soon. He will be presenting his priorities to the General Assembly this month, and then, as usual, we will also have a press conference as soon as that's done.
Thank you very much, Stéphane. There are demonstrations in Kazakhstan. Do you have any comment on that? Thank you.
I do not at this very moment, but I will check. Okay, Alan.
Thanks so much, Stéphane. You mentioned the statement by the ESG regarding this P5 countries statement on non-proliferation and the possibility of nuclear war. But still, there are upcoming several meetings between Russia and NATO, Russia and OSCE, Russia and US this month. What are your aspirations? What do you expect of these meetings?
You know, I think the meetings you've mentioned will deal with a number of issues on the docket, right? What we very much hope will come out of these meetings is a de-escalation of the tensions that we have seen in that part of the world. And we are always supportive and encouraging of dialogue, especially when it's at the highest levels. Abdelhamid. Then I'll come back to the room.
Thank you, Stéphane. First, I want to wish you and your colleagues in the Spokesman Office a happy New Year.
Thank you very much, and to you and yours.
Thank you. My first question about the Palestinian who have been on hunger strike. Today is his 141st day. Hisham Abu Hawash. He is almost on the bed of death now. The police entered the room and threw out his family out, and it's a matter of maybe hours before he passes out. Yet all this tragedy has not signaled Mr. Winslow to say something about this humanitarian case. Why is that?
Well, my understanding from our colleagues on the ground who've just been in touch with us in the last 30 minutes or so is that the situation regarding Hisham Abu Hawash is being resolved. So we think that's obviously the fact that it's being resolved is a good thing. We have, as a matter of principle, always been very clear in saying that people who are detained should be charged and tried in accordance with due process or released. And that has been our position on administrative detention. Yes?
So what do you mean? What do you mean by resolved?
Yeah. Can I continue?
Yeah.
Yeah. On December 17, Mr. Thor Winslow issued a statement condemning the attack on a settler. He was killed by Palestinians, which is very strange to issue a statement attacking settlers. However, on 24 December, one settler ran over a Palestinian 60-year-old woman. Her name is Ghadir Fuqaha, from the village of Sinjar. He went off the road and he killed her. What, in your opinion, or the office of the spokesman, more conducive to a statement from a humanitarian?
Look, I think we have spoken out and condemned the killings of civilians throughout this conflict, and we will continue to do so. And Mr. Venezuela will continue to report back to the Security Council. James, the reports that we've received from our colleagues on the ground, as they've seen in the media, is that he has ended his hunger strike. But I would encourage you to have your colleagues on the ground check. Yes, sir.
Steph, when is the Secretary General having his in-person press conference in lieu of the virtual press conference he did at the end of the year?
We will have, as I mentioned, as soon as the date is set for his presentation of his priorities, for this year to the General Assembly, we will set that press conference. Yeah, usually, as it's had happened in the last 5 years, I think happens on the same day. So we're waiting for that date. Okay, thank you very. Go ahead, James.
With regard to cross-border aid to Syria, there is some question mark over whether the Security Council needs to reauthorize another 6-month extension this month. There seems to be a disagreement among the Security Council on that. I'm sure you would not want to speak for the Security Council. But how important is it that that aid continues and
Critical.
and that there is no disruption by another Security Council extension?
So I think I will try to answer your question. I would encourage you, as you will do, to save that question for Ambassador Jules when she takes the podium in a few minutes. The flow of aid through cross-border is critical for us to reach those Syrians who are in need of humanitarian aid. It is life or death for hundreds of thousands of people, and we would hope that we'd be able to continue that flow without any disruption.
And a quick follow-up to Alan's question, the situation with regard to Ukraine and the tension now between the US and its Western allies and Russia. We've seen numerous efforts to try and de-escalate the situation. We've even seen face-to-face talks and more recently telephone talks between President Putin and President Biden. And despite the fact the two leaders have spoken, the tension has not gone down in any way. They seem to be very, very wary of each other, and there are many observers who think it's quite possible that Russia will invade Ukraine. So what is the Secretary-General's thinking on this? How concerned is he? And what would it mean if Russia was to invade, from the Secretary-General's point of view, if Russia was to invade Ukraine?
We are very concerned about the situation. We have welcomed the various contacts have been had at a high level, including the phone talks. We hope that these contacts will continue, even if the tensions remain. We hope that the dialogue will continue. We would not want to see any hostile military action in Ukraine from wherever that may come. All right. Thank you. I'll remind you that in 33 minutes, you will have a briefing by the President of the Security Council for the month of January. Thank you.